Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. Just a quick follow-up video to the Macintosh SE Accelerator video that was on the main channel. If you haven't seen the video already, I will put a link in the description below to the video. All right, so what I want to talk about here is, in the first video, there were sound issues with this thing when the accelerator was enabled, basically, well, in the machine. The sound was choppy. I had several viewers, thank you very much, who emailed me about the GemStart 3 driver for other accelerator boards, I guess something called a Gem accelerator or whatever it is. On the page that listed all the accelerator drivers, it said that that one specifically works for System 7, which is what's on here, and it would fix the sound issues. Well, that link was broken, but several people figured out how to get the file to download. I'm going to turn this on. Hopefully still works. There we go. And I downloaded it and I copied it onto this floppy disk here. It's 800K disk for this older Mac. Let's see if it works. To be honest, this is the original floppy drive and I have cleaned it, but it was a long time ago. It may not even work. I'm going to write protect this disk just in case. Will this drive even work? Maybe? Hey, look at that. It came up. All right, so, whoops. What's happening here? Why isn't the mouse working? All right, there we go. We have a working mouse. The problem was the cable was not plugged in all the way on the back of the machine. All right, so here is the GemStart 3.0 file. Has no icon, which is a bit odd. Apparently it's a control panel, so I'm going to copy this to the hard drive. Let's eject this floppy drive. Ooh, that sounds very slow. I'm nearly positive that I have swapped out the gear on this disk drive because that's stripped out. So it's a 3D printed gear. And I think I should probably take this drive apart and clean it again because it sounds a little gummed up there. Anyhow, there is the file, GemStart 3. I am concerned as a control panel that it's got no icon. Copyright 1992 Total Systems. Let's take out the Applied Engineering Warp Drive control panel. That's what's in here at the moment. Where exactly did that just go? Okay, there it is. And for the GemStart 3.0 file, I had read in the README that it said to install this into the extensions folder first, even though it's a control panel. And then it said to make an alias to it, which I will do here, make alias, which is sort of an equivalent of a shortcut, and put this in the control panel. And that way, when you do need to control things, you can find it right in here. I guess on macOS System 7, and let's see what version of the system we're on right now. Down here, 7.01. I'm pretty sure that things in the extension folders run first, and it's alphabetical, so they put a space at the start of the name here, so this really does load first. So, let's reboot. Let's see what happens. Let's see if the sound is fixed. Okay, there was a little icon that drove across the screen. That was very cute. Incidentally, in the folder where all these accelerator files were, there was one from Applied Engineering, a different one than this Warp 031. And that one supposedly had stuff to fix the sound on the accelerator. It was called like the Transwarp Compact or something like that. Well, someone found another link which had basically the same list of all the accelerator stuff, and there was a download link to that Applied Engineering file. I downloaded it, and on my other Mac, on the Classic, I decompressed it using Stuffit Expander, and unfortunately, it decompresses into an empty folder with no files. So it doesn't seem to work, and well, there you go. So, all right, here we are with GemStart. Let's go to the control panel and check out that alias I made. And let's see what options we have available to ourselves. All right, startup animation off and on, instruction cache off and on. Use FPU for sane, okay, that's on. It says it's the Gemini 020 running at 16 megahertz. Okay, we'll talk about the speed in a second. Memory has 4 megs of 32-bit RAM, has 1 meg sims, has the FPU. So I wonder if I put more RAM on this card, will this actually recognize it? What does full applications do? I think this, I don't know, I think you can add applications to fool them into running. And that's it. GemStart is trademark Total Systems, Eugene, Oregon. Hey, look at that. Just south of the city here. Apple Link. It even has a 503 area code. That's the area code for Portland now. The rest of the state has a different area code. All right, well, anyhow, it's running, I guess. And the computer just froze. So I don't know how reliable this GemStart 3 is. The transwarp stuff definitely worked without freezing. And I'm gonna have to power cycle the computer because it is dead as a doornail. So I didn't have any freezes when it came to the Applied Engineering card, but this one on the other hand, not so sure about it. Let's hope that crash had something to do with the control panel just not being totally compatible. And with the driver just loaded normally, maybe the sound will work. So we'll run the Tetris test. Tetris effects? No, Tetris test for the sound. All right, here's Tetris. I'm gonna start this, but before I do that, I'm gonna grab this microphone so I can hold it up to the speaker. Thumbs down. Boy, I can't really bend my thumb right now. All right, well that didn't work at all. No improvement whatsoever. So I think what we can do now is try running speedometer 3.06 here, and let's see if there's any kind of speed difference between the Applied Engineering driver, which seemed to be the faster of the two that I had tried before, and the this one here. Oh, this is somewhat amusing. 68020 integral FPU? What? Integral? No 68020 had an integral FPU. That's odd. While these tests run, let's take a look at what I have on the iPad here. So if you can believe it, one of my lovely viewers, Mal, went and bought the manual for the Orion Accelerator card, the one in the Mac here, and scanned it in, uploaded it, and emailed it to me. So this is actually it, the Orion SE 20/25 installation and user manual from MacPeak. Now, unfortunately, the iPad here is at 3% battery, so hopefully it doesn't die while we're trying to look at it. But yes, this is the entire manual for this. I will put a link down below in the description for this, archive.org. So if you have one of these cards or are looking for one of these cards, well, here's the entire manual. Fascinating stuff. This was very enlightening to read. Well, tests are done. Let's run the last one here so we can do the comparison. Okay, let's see. So what's very, very interesting, I don't even know why I didn't think about it, it supports 4 different memory configurations, well 5 actually. 1 meg, which is 4 256K sims, 2 megs, which is all 8 256K sims, 4 megs, which of course is what I have in this machine now, it's just 4 1 meg sims, 5 megs, so it's the 4 I have in here, plus 4 256, I didn't even try that, and then 8 megs total. And reading through here, you definitely do not need the MMU to support 8 megabytes. That is not the case. It says in here the MMU, which I don't have on this one, is only for running AUX, Apple's Unix operating system, which is would be compatible with the Mac here if you have that 68851 or whatever it is, that the MMU chip. But you don't need that for the 8 megs of RAM. What it talks about, and it's somewhere in here, is it says when you have 8 megs of RAM, the problem is the stock ROM sits right at the top of the 4 meg ROM space. That's just the way the Mac maps that. And what this does is, using their control panel software, is it copies the ROM into RAM, which is like a cache, so it's much faster than the slow ROMs that are on this thing, and then it enables the rest of the memory. So you have 8 megs total minus the 256K that the ROM is taking up. You get the benefit of that ROM being accelerated because it's in full 32-bit memory versus the 16-bit slow memory on this, and you get that extra RAM. And it's all doable with this card, and you don't need the MMU. Now, it does talk about the jumpers, and to be honest, I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't know where the paper is. I think, oh, here it is. Nope. I thought I saved it, the jumper configurations. But it says, let's see if I can find the little chart. So here's some jumper configurations. 1 meg, 2 meg, well, we don't care about that, right? Here we go. 4 megs. J1 not jumpered, which tells it 1 meg sims. J2 jumpered, which tells it 4 sims. And then for 5 and 8, you say J1 not jumpered and J2 not jumpered. Well, I definitely tried J1 and J2 with 8 megs of RAM, and it would cause the computer to crash. So I don't know if there's a fault on this board or what the deal is exactly, but I am 100% positive I tried that configuration with 8 megs of RAM on this board. I didn't try the 5 megs, but I definitely tried the 8 megs. So I'm not 100% sure what the deal is. Tells you to install the board in the computer, tells you how to do it. And of course, earlier on, it told you to transfer the ROMs over. Oh, it also told you to keep 2 256K sticks in the motherboard, and you do need to set the jumpers appropriately. It says if you have 4 sticks in the motherboard, it doesn't matter. That doesn't cause a problem, but all you need is the 2. And having the 4 in there doesn't take away extra RAM or anything. It just doesn't use it. And the onboard memory is for the sound and the video frame buffer for the display, as I talked about. I didn't realize it was for the sound though. Let's check the battery. Okay, we're at 1%. This thing's about to die. So here's the big takeaway. There is the control panel for the Mac Peak Accelerator, and clearly I need this thing for it to work properly. You can set variable clock speed, either 16 or 20, cache on or off. You can control the memory speed, and it says when it's set to 85 nanoseconds, it said there's no point to use 60, so I guess it's grayed out. It puts the memory into 0 wait state. And this memory is 60, I think that's on here. So for sure, I could get the 0 wait state for the memory. Also has the 6881, 882 speed, and whether you want to use or bypass it. And then look, load ROM into RAM and use memory above 4 megabytes, and there's a checkbox. So even if I could get those jumpers to work with the memory, will not crash when I power it on, you need this software for it to do anything, not to mention we want that extra speed. Now, one thing that I can be sure of is that this control panel is System 6. It's not System 7, and the date down here says 1988. So it's very unlikely that this software actually works. Oh, there, the iPad just died. There is no way that that software works with System 7, and most likely it fixes the sound problem, I'm sure. So it kind of means that because they never updated for System 7, this card is not totally useful. I mean, I suppose it's useful using the applied engineering software that we have here, well, that I'm not using right now, but that I could use, because at least I get the performance benefit in System 7. But I haven't been able to figure out a way to make the sound work. I mean, if this GemStart one fixed the sound, great, but it doesn't. So there's really no reason to use it compared to, I don't know, the other software and stuff. Let's do system comparison and let's take a look. Is this faster? Okay, here's the AE driver. All right, so let's see if there's any difference. This stuff's like margin of error difference. Okay, math is faster now with this driver, 13.4 versus 12.0. Whetstones, 29 versus 26, so that's an improvement. Most of the other stuff, though, is exactly the same. Fast Fourier is faster. So there's a little bit of a difference. And the math speed is identical. All right, so there's a slight performance boost here, although let's change this over back to the other driver, this one here. Yeah, okay, the math speed, this is the original driver. I think it was the Dove driver. Obviously, the math speed is way slower. In fact, everything is slower. Well, almost everything. But this is, I didn't run that test at all. Anyways, okay, well, there's a slight performance boost compared to that the applied engineering driver, but it doesn't fix the sound. That's such a shame. Now I'm gonna add, and I didn't show the README file that was on this disk here, but it talked about a couple things, and this is the GemStart 3.0 driver that's on here. It talked about that the 2.x driver had the option to copy the ROM into RAM. And it says that the GemStart 3.0 driver, which is what I'm using now, handles that automatically. That implies that this actually supports more memory than just 4 megabytes. Kind of like this card, like the real version of this card. So I guess that means I should probably open up the computer here and try to add in that additional RAM, put it back together, see what it's gonna do. It's kind of a pain because it's not easy to take that card out of there, but I'm gonna do it. I should have just left that 8 megs in there in the first place, to be honest, because I got lots of RAM. RAM can spare 4 extra megabytes. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take this apart and put the 8 megs in there, and let's see what happens. Okay, here's the motherboard, fully populated with RAM again, and I have gone ahead and removed both jumpers because in the manual, remember 8 megabytes, it said take them both off. Incidentally, I forgot to install a battery in this thing. The motherboard this is not the original one that was in the SE. This is a different one, and someone had to remove the battery at some point before I got it. So I just installed a CR2032 in there, and there's an IKEA battery. These aren't the best. They're cheap, but they don't last very long. But 3 volts is absolutely good enough in a Mac like this, and this does not have a rechargeable battery. This is a normal 3.6 volt lithium in here that does not recharge, so you don't have to worry about a diode or anything. You can just install that. And because the battery holder doesn't really fit in there, I use some really thick leads, I think from like a high-powered diode or whatever, and I attach that to the legs of this holder, and then that goes down into the motherboard, but it's also resting on these filters or whatever these are. I think these are filters, so it's actually on there pretty solidly, so there's no chance of it moving around. So anyhow, there we go, ready to install back into the computer, and let's see if it works. Oh, and luckily you can access the jumpers while the motherboard is mounted, so if this still crashes when I power up the machine, which I'm sure it will, then all I need to do is put that jumper back on, and then it will work. It will have 4 megs though, but it will work. All right, machine's back together enough to turn on. It's booting with a sound, but I'm fully expecting a sad Mac. No sad Mac. Okay. Fingers crossed. You know, I don't remember my little chart of which jumpers worked and which didn't, but maybe both off, which is how it is right now, was set to 8 megabytes. And I just assumed it wasn't working, or it was the same. I remember there was 2 configurations that just worked with the 8 megs installed. Perhaps the problem with the other one is it was thinking it was, what was the other jumper? I forgot already, the manual, the iPad's upstairs. So anyhow, okay, we're gonna see with this on here, what does it think for the total memory installed? Oh, and incidentally, like when you don't have the clock battery in there, you lose the time, but I don't care about that because like this thing is not Y2K compatible anyways. And yes, for people who think the Mac is Y2K compatible, at least with System 7, it is definitely not. If we go to date and time, maybe under general controls. Okay, there's the date. So if you put in here 21, well, we're gonna go to 99, okay? And we're gonna go up from there. And we'll go to 21. Okay. Whatever, the time just doesn't matter. I don't care about that. Okay, so there it is, 11/2/21. That's not the date, but it's good enough. If we go to this hard drive here and we go new folder, there it is, untitled. Let's do info. There's the date, 1921. That's how you confirm that the Mac, at least these old ones, not Y2K compatible. I don't know if it's even possible to get a 2000 date on this thing in any way. But you saw I was at 99. I went up from there and we ended up at 1921. So if anyone knows what year I should pick that has the exact same calendar, at least for, you know, day and month, let me know. I know I saw a chart once that showed all the calendars like that as they repeat the various years. So instead of picking 2021, I could pick like 19 something, and then that would end up with the same dates. But it doesn't really matter. The biggest thing that I was saying is it remembers some of the other settings, and specifically the mouse speed, because the default speed is so slow. So it's set for the tablet one here. That's way more usable, and now it's gonna actually remember it. Okay, sorry, let's first of all go back. I was in the control panel. Let's go to GemStart. GemStart 3.0. Okay, here we go. It does not see the additional RAM. Has 4 megabytes of RAM and 1 meg sims, has the FPU. So there we go. 4 megs. That does not help with the additional RAM. We would need something else to do that. Now, that applied engineering card, oh, this just froze. I'm going to power cycle this. Actually, I'm going to put the lid back on because I know that this is the right jumper config, so that next time when I try a different driver, if I find one, then maybe the 8 megs will show up. All right, so the side is back on. Just powered it back up. Let's see if the mouse speed is remembered. That means the battery I stuck in there is actually working. So whatever accelerator card this Gem card is, obviously supports more than 4 megs of RAM, because that option I talked about, the copy ROM into RAM, is really only applicable if you have more than 4 megabytes. But the fact it doesn't work here means it must do its additional RAM in a different way. Not to mention the 16 megahertz thing is obviously wrong because, well, I don't know if it's wrong, to be honest. Maybe everything I've been running on here runs the card at 16 megahertz. By the way, the mouse speed is good. So I'm going to switch back to the applied engineering one because we're going to see if that memory appears now that I know I have the right jumpers, thanks to Mal, who sent the manual. Let's pop this back in extensions here. I'm going to actually do the same thing. I'll stick it in extensions. Does it have a space in front of it? I'm going to add a space. I think it might have already had one. Yes, it did. I had already done the space trick. The space trick. Yes, making more space by putting spaces. There we go. Let's make an alias to that. I'll just leave it on the desktop for now. All right, let's reboot. Let's reboot. Let's see if that additional memory appears. Anyhow, now that I know the jumpers are right, maybe these other drivers will work. It's too bad that this Gem one doesn't support the additional memory, doesn't support the CPU speed control, and doesn't fix the sound. Because those are all things that would be awesome if it did those things. But as we saw, that's not the case. Okay, here's the applied engineering alias that takes us to the control panel. There it is. So math code processor, yes, people pointed out there was no burst cache on the 68020, so clearly turning that on has no effect, but it seems to work. And no data burst either, so sure. Logical RAM, physical RAM, 4 megs. So yes, it doesn't see any additional memory either. What a shame. And since I know that this applied engineering driver has bad sound, I might as well go back to the other one. The only other thing about GemStart that doesn't work well is it freezes when you try to exit the control panel. But who cares? Because I never really need to go into the control panel, and it does offer that slight performance benefit. So back in with the GemStart 3.0, and yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. That is the Macintosh SE Accelerator update, still left with sound that doesn't work properly and no additional memory, but thank you very much, Mal, for sending the manual. Mal's gonna actually mail me the actual book too, so the scan I'll put up online for anyone to look at. I stuck it on my Google Drive, but I will have the manual to go with the card that's in this machine, but unfortunately, no drivers. And the funny thing is about the drivers, as I mentioned, they only are gonna work on System 6, I'm sure of that. I mean, they might work on System 7, it's possible, but I doubt it, right? So I would probably just run this computer with System 6 and the accelerator, because that's even faster than this System 7. System 7 benefits a lot from the accelerator, but I don't really care about multitasking or whatever, and the compatibility of System 6 is better anyways, and if I get all the benefit of more RAM and faster speed and all that good stuff, I mean, that's great. I can run System 6 with MultiFinder, which will allow me to switch applications, which System 7 does. And the only real other things that are missing are, I don't know, I think there's no alias support on System 6, maybe. Stuff like that. I mean, it's just not a big deal, right? So anyhow, if any of my viewers can do super sleuthing and find those drivers, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. That would complete this computer, make it as fast as possible, plus I get that 0 wait state RAM as well. This machine would absolutely fly. It would be pretty amazing. So that is it. Thanks very much to the viewers who sent in links for this GemStart 3. Thanks very much to Mel for getting the manual. That's just epic, very epic. Thanks very much to my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen, I guess over on that side this time. And yeah, that's it. Thumbs up if you like this and all the usual stuff. And stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.